Attention, regional championship players. After 14 rounds of Swiss, we have your top 8. In first place, with 37 points, is Devin Straub. In second place, we have Mac Endres. In third place, we have Jacob Koshak. In fourth place, we have Aiden Lamson. In fifth place, we have Alessandro Smith. In sixth place, we have Min Wing. In seventh place, we have Andrew Vorel. And in eighth place, off of tiebreakers, we have Chandler Cox. Standings will be finalized in 5 minutes. If you have made the top 8, please come to the feature match area. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the coverage of Dreamhack Denver. Riley Knight joining you for the first time today, along with Noah Walker. And Noah, it's time for our top 8. We've just had the names announced. I know you're very excited to see some of the people that have made the cut in action, and the quarterfinals are moments away. Looking forward to today, Noah?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if this is the moment all y'all out there hanging out with us have been waiting for, but it's certainly the moment that I've been waiting for. These really high tension, matches. As we said multiple times now, we got 2 World Championship invites on the line. So these players are playing for so much money. They're playing for so many cool qualifications, and I can't wait to dive into these matches.
That's what we're going to do as well. We've got our first quarterfinal standing by, ready to go. We're going to check in with Andrew Vorel on 5-color creativity playing against Mac Endres, Temur Rhinos. You and I saw Mac play yesterday. Looked really, really impressive. Made a deep undefeated run. And obviously it paid off heading into day number 2, made it all the way to the top 8. So we'll see how it goes between these two. I imagine we'll be able to have a look at the deck lists before we jump into the match here. Kicking things off with this Temur Rhinos list. We say Temur. This is the domain version of it, right? With the Leyline of the Guild pack.
Yeah, Mac trying out the new flavor of the deck this week. It looks really, really strong to me. Looks like the Deshaunus Tidebinders not making the hugest difference being in the main or the side, at least for Mac. As we've seen him multiple times on camera, just kind of crushing everybody with his really solid looking build.
Yeah, it was a decision that a lot of people made heading into this week, and not just here in Denver, but also over in Japan, where a regional championship is also taking place, a Champions Cup over there. The Cascade decks have done really, really well, and this version of the deck in particular is one to certainly keep an eye on as the format continues to develop. On the other side of Mac Endres, on the other side of the battlefield here, his opponent Andrew Vorel on 5-color creativity. Now, the interesting thing about this list is it looks a little less all-in to me, Noah. It's not playing that Crab Investigate card. Instead, it's playing cards that really, apart from Indomitable Creativity and Transmogrify, playing cards that kind of stand on their own 2 feet, if that makes sense. Like the individual card quality of this deck is a lot higher than what I've seen in former versions of creativity lists.
Yeah, that is exactly right, Riley. This list is just very similar to the decks that we've been watching on camera in the past couple rounds in those 4-color, 5-color control strategies. To really relying heavily on these Teferis and Ren and 6s, but just getting a little bit of extra value with the Fable and Mirror Breakers. I'm really excited to see Andy here with this really clean looking 5-color creativity list. It looks nice to me.
Yeah, I really would love to see some just beastly Manatides here, but I don't know. The quality of player in our top 8 is probably going to mean that people don't walk into the Manatide, but here's hoping we see at least one blowout here or there. Anyway, let's get underway. The match is ready to go, so we're going to jump down to our feature match area. Mac Endres, Temur Rhinos, Andrew Vorel, 5-color creativity. Riley Knight and Noah Walker in the booth with you today. What a pleasure it is to have your company as we get underway with our top 8 here in Denver. I say here in Denver. I'm all the way in sunny Queensland on the Sunshine Coast. And you're in freezing cold New York. Is that right, Noah?
Yes, I am. It's not too bad right now. What my watch says it's about 37 degrees outside. So
37 degrees? That's hotter than it is.
I've seen worse. Yeah, it's 7 above freezing. I've seen worse days.
It's only 28 here, mate. In the middle of summer. Holy moly, I didn't realize it got so hot. This is not a funny joke. Anyway, let's get underway. Let's get underway here. We're starting things off, as you can expect, a little slower from Mac's side of things. The Temur Rhinos deck, its key turn is turn number 3, right? Turn 3, when it plays one of its Cascade cards, whether that's Shardless Agent, whether that's Violent Outburst. We can see this deck do things earlier, especially, Leyline of the Guild Pact gets the Sign of Draco down on turn number 2, but it's a slower start here for Mac.
Yeah, totally. He could still have, he could fetch for a Temple Garden here and still play the Scion, luckily, because he got the Xander's Lounge on turn 1. So he's still kind of in a good position to possibly have a really strong start here. But, other than the Scion of Dracos, maybe a Fire and Ice or cycling a Yora Unrevealed, there's not too much that the Temur Rhinos deck can do for the first couple turns of the game.
Oh, and look at this. The prognosticator himself, Noah Walker, seeing future truths as Sign of Draco comes down on turn number 2. So now it's up to Andrew to find something to deal with this situation here. This 5-color creativity deck. Oh, it's a matter of time, dude. I didn't have to wait long at all to see it. You love to see this. Look at it go. Now,
honestly, I love the Mana Tithe so much, especially in open deck list, because then even when you don't have a Mana Tithe, your opponent kind of has to be wary of you possibly having one.
Yes.
And then with these new Surveil lands that we've been seeing, a lot of times it just a fetch land in play untapped for your opponent isn't necessarily the scariest thing, right? A lot of times they're not going to be using their mana for very much, especially on the first couple turns of the game. So I love these Mana Tithes that Andrew decided to include in his deck list.
Now, this wasn't quite the blowout that we were perhaps hoping for. I think it was just a reasonable exchange of cards, right? Like, it wouldn't have been that exciting if it had been a Path to Exile or something. But very cool to see Mana Tithe get a run like this, and very cool to see it Sniper 12 drop as well at the end of the day. But no, you're right. Look, the texture of Modern has changed a little bit thanks to these Surveil lands. It's something we've kept an eye on throughout the weekend. The way that things have shifted a little bit now that you can really get a good amount of value off of an untapped fetch into turn. And now we're going to see, look at this. This is a fantastic answer to the Crashing Footfalls. This is Reprieve. This is the White Remand. Sends it back to Mac's hand, which is the worst place for a Crashing Footfalls to be.
Yeah, not exactly good for Mac. Luckily, he does have, this mana source here so that he can at least deploy the Crashing Footfalls to come down in 4 turns or whatever, but he's not really getting too much started. It looked like one of his first draw steps of the game was that Leyline of the Guild Pact, which is going to be really, really bad, just kind of rotting away in his hand for most of this game. And it looks like he also might have mulliganed kind of low, because he only has 2 cards in his hand. So
yeah, so Andrew's really been able to keep pace, and you can see his hand looks a lot better. He's got plenty of lands. He's got a copy or 2, I think, of Indomitable Creativity. So assuming you can find something to exile here.
Yeah, he just goes and gets the Dwarven Mine here on turn 4.
Right. He's sort of speeding things up a little bit. Yeah, revealing the Indomitable Creativity, finds the Dwarven Mine. Indomitable Creativity will then go and essentially get, Archon of Cruelty. It's going to flip big chunks of cards over. There's the Archon. This is the messiest resolution of a creativity trigger that I've ever seen. But hey,
it's just the beauty of open deck lists.
Yeah, I suppose it's all right. Oh, yeah.
He's like Mac knows that Andrew's only targets for the creativity are the 3 Archons in his deck, and he's already shuffling his deck anyway. He's like, if you want me to, I can go through the motions, but we know what's coming here. So
yeah, I think technically speaking, that shortcut was a little on. Anyway, it's all right. It's happened now. So we have the Archon on the battlefield. Mac bravely fighting on, however, as we see him tick down his Crashing Footfalls. And another Surveil land here in the form of Thundering Falls. Okay, and going to hard cast the Leyline. Never the position you really want to be in. In comes the Archon.
Yeah, I mean, this game is all but over, and he has an Embarrassment of Riches in his hand, plenty of removal spells, a Teferi. He's just going to creativity his Archon to get another one and finish it up.
Yep. Yes, indeed, because the Archon, the second Archon will come into play. It'll trigger again and ding Mac for another 3 life. And so that'll be that for game number 1. Done and dusted there. A very convincing performance from Andrew Vogel. Although Mac again, maybe on the mulligan, but just the plays that he tried to get going in the early turns just didn't line up against the disruption that Andrew had.
Yeah, just really, really well placed spells for Andrew there. Mana Tithe to counter the turn 2 dragon, and then Mac not having too much going on, so really easy to take over the game there with an early Anomal Creativity. So looking at creativity, actually does shuffle the library afterwards. So he was like, I'm gonna have to shuffle and shuffling again. So he was fine with his shortcut. It just looked a little sloppy.
It did look a little messy, but we got there in the end, and that's fine. So we can move on now to game number 2 as we head back down to our feature match area now. Mac Endress on the back foot. And it looks like it's Andrew's turn to mulligan here. Is that a mulligan to 6 by the look of things? So just one card going below decks there. And Mac with no Leyline once again is just going to suspend a Crashing Footfalls here, Noah.
Yeah, it's a fine turn 1 for Mac. I'm surprised keep a 7? He might have had a mulligan as well. So maybe he just felt like he couldn't be too low on cards in this matchup where Andy has all of these options for value. The game is probably going to come down to a lot of one for oneing, being able to have any of your cards be impactful or get more than just a trade is really good. So Crashing Football is not insane, but if Mac is able to make it to turn 4, with Andrew not having a Teferi in play, the Footfalls is still going to matter a lot in the matchup.
Do you know what's really sick, right, about this build that Andrew Farrell has brought together, right? Because you can play Remand. You don't have to play Reprieve. Reprieve gets around stuff that can't be countered, of course, but I think it probably is just a little bit better. But the other thing about playing your counter spells as being Mana Tithe and Reprieve is that it makes the 4 copies of Mystical Dispute in Mac's sideboard look very silly, right? Because Mystical Dispute is so often brought in to contest counter wars, right? It's sort of this this 1 mana leak that can be the difference between winning or losing a counter war. But when your opponent is playing white counter spells, all of a sudden, you're not as able to contest the stack with a card like Mystical Dispute like you would be able to otherwise.
Totally, Riley. Yeah. I think it's definitely a concession to the way that Andrew constructed his deck. It's a red-white deck basically splashing blue for Teferi and then splashing green for Ren and 6. So yeah, while these Mana Tithes and Reprieves are really good on his mana base, you make an excellent point that they're also really good in these post game 1 situations, facing all of these blue decks that play just tons of copies of Mystical Dispute.
Yeah, and I don't think Mac brought his copies in. I saw Force of Negation. Obviously, that's a main deck inclusion. So Mac does have answers to the creativity problem, but here it's him who's going off at the moment. He's got his Violent Outburst, and that'll flip one of the Crashing Footfalls here. If we can ever find one, there we go. And Andrew's going to have a quick look through the cards that were exiled to see. Oh wait, no, is that a Mystical Dispute?
I think he brought some Mystical Disputes in. My guess is that he didn't sideboard very much in this matchup. Probably just brought in the Mystical Disputes, maybe took out the Leyline of the guild packs, because I think he didn't really care as much about really being able to turbo out a Scion of Draco in the matchup, and is just worried more on these games are gonna take some time more often than not.
Man, Mana Tithe gets him again. Mana Tithe has looked so good here. I guess when the margins in a format are so thin when it comes to mana, like Modern is becoming more and more like Legacy in the sense that every last drop of mana is so important. And
totally.
Mana Tithe has punished Mac in 2 really key spots here.
Yeah, honestly, I just think it's really, really great deck building. Like when you think about the texture of a lot of these decks in the format, playing like 1 rings on 4 or playing Teferis on 3 or even just, spending your turn 3 cascading into a Crashing Footfalls, Mana Tithe lines up so well against all of these threats that are like the most popular in the format, I'd say. So it just makes a lot of sense to me, and it seems like it's been paying off really well.
And the other thing is, right, even if you play around Mana Tithe, that comes at the cost of an entire turn. And that might not matter in a slower format like Standard, but in Modern, that can be huge, right? And we're going to see now a reprieve as well. So Andrew kind of playing the tempo game while he builds up towards this this indomitable creativity that is almost certainly on its way. So I really like this. I like this disruptive suite. I think it's well positioned at the moment. I think the Mana Tithe and the Reprieve are doing really good work in a format that again is just so tight on mana. So again, we're going to see the same situation here. Indomitable Creativity, Dwarven Mine, exiling the dwarf, going and getting presumably an Archon, or maybe there's Terastodon that's been brought in. No, just going to be an Archon of Cruelty.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Archon, one of the best possible cards that I think Andrew could have in this sort of matchup. It's just naturally bigger than the Rhinos. Every time it attacks, they have to sacrifice one of the Rhinos, or it's just really, really powerful card.
Yeah, and it might be the end of the line here for Mac Andrus. He needs an answer to this Archon, but it's Andrew Varel now who passes the turn. Back to Mac, plays the Rhinos. Don't know how much longer they're going to be sticking around, to be honest. Can't attack into the 6/6, and when Andrew gets on the front foot, one of them just dies straight away to its trigger. So, oh boy. Okay, well, here's another set of Rhinos now with a Shardless Agent here, Noah.
Yeah, I think this will be the fourth Crashing Footfalls, because I think he still has one in his hand, two in graveyard, so he won't be able to cascade into any more Rhinos this game. But the Shardless Agent really powerful on this board, actually, despite being having almost no life. From an attack with this Archon attacking a creature, that'll put him at 1. So it's not the greatest position to be in if you're Mac, but I think this is one of the things that he's going to need to do if he can win a game like this. Have the extra bodies in play, try to set up lethal attack. Right here, he's really looking for a Leyline Binding, and if he doesn't have one in his hand, it's going to be really tough for him to close out this game.
Leyline Binding would be really nice, and it looks like maybe we've got one. Oh boy! All right, so this game just completely flipped on its head here. It's now Andrew who needs an answer in this situation. Passes the turn. Unable to attack with those Rhinos. They come into play just this turn, did they? Oh, off the suspended Crashing Footfalls, right?
Yep.
And you can see Andrew's hand's got some real juices in there. We've got Ren and 6. There's another Archon, but his turn looks like a lonely Dwarven Mine and not a whole lot else.
Yeah, he has a copy of Get Lost in his hand. He'll probably have to use it on one of these Rhinos. Oh yeah, he's the Beseiju. Yeah.
Beseiju to get rid of the Leyline Binding here. That's huge because that returns the Archon to play, gets another trigger. So that's another creature lost, another card lost, a bit of a life total buffer here for Andrew. Not that he needs it. So that Beseiju was coming in clutch there. And the Archon's back on the battlefield, ready to party. So, discards Violent Outburst. And now, it's all systems go for Andrew Varel, who I believe he can attack now, right? He channeled Beseiju. Oh, no. It's still his turn, right?
Just came back into play.
Yep.
And I guess he is just going to get lost main phase. I guess this makes sense. He doesn't really want to have to deal with another Leyline Binding and then a counter spell or something. So I like the main phase.
All right, Force of Negation, Subtlety in hand here for Mac.
Those cards do not answer Archon of Cruelty, Riley.
No. We're going to see this Rhino Explore. Reveals your Lorien Revealed. No good, says Mac. Don't like the look of that one. Sacrifice another map token here by the look of things. Yep. Same Rhino. Becomes a 6/6. And Beseiju goes to the hand. Is played. So what does Mac want to do now? Subtlety still in hand. In addition to a Force of Negation.
doesn't really have any options. Like, he could try to attack, get through some damage. That's like bluff having, I guess, maybe a Fire Ice or something to finish off the Archon. Maybe somehow he can convince, Andrew not to block. But as is, this Archon is basically just a lethal attack. Right now, his best plan is sacrifice one of my smaller Rhinos, discard my Force of Negation, and then just play, my 3/2 subtlety to block. Which
that's the only thing that keeps him alive, right?
Yeah, not really a great spot to be in if you're Mac.
Subtlety, yeah, Mana Tithe as well to take care of it. And Andrew Varel progresses to the semi-finals. Mac bowing out here. The might of the creativity deck well and truly put on display. The interactive options that this deck had in order to disrupt what Mac was up to was just incredible, right? The Mana Tithes, the reprieves, they did such a good job in keeping Mac on the back foot, made him unable to really enact what he was trying to do with those Rhinos. And really, really impressive stuff from Andrew there. This looks like a deck that's been very finely crafted, well-tuned, and has also been piloted masterfully by this bloke who we're going to see in the semifinals now.
Yeah, I totally agree, Riley. Really, really well played there from Andrew. His list looking clean through and through. The Mana Tides really showing up huge. And just kind of what we were talking about with a lot of these threats in the modern format right now, they might be sort of cheap, but you're tapping out for them almost every time. These 3 drops, these 4 drops. It's so hard to be able to play around Mana Tithe. You just have to play into it. So
yeah, this is what I was saying before. Like, the margins are so thin for your curve, for the threats that you play, for the amount of mana that you want to deploy and use every turn, that I think Mana Tithe, unironically, is actually in a really good spot in Modern, which is what a world we live in. Anyway,
totally,
my friends, great news for everyone. It is time for another giveaway, courtesy of our friends at Heavy Play supporting this stream, and we'd love it if you could support them as well. One of the reasons that streams like this are possible and that competitive Magic on such a high level can be brought to your screens is because of sponsors like Heavy Play. And they've been kind enough to provide us with a whole heap of store credit to give away to our exalted viewers this weekend. And we're going to do that right now. Type Heavy Play into the chat, and you'll have a chance to win $5 in store credit at heavyplay.com. And look, even if you're not one of our lucky winners, be sure to head over to heavyplay.com, have a look at what they've got on offer. And I'm sure, for the people who have picked up a bit of store credit this weekend, they'll be very pleased to go and clean up at the Heavy Play store.
Oh yeah, I know I would be, getting some free store credit from one of the, top Magic products right now. That sounds nice to me.
Oh, yeah. So we'd like to thank Heavy Play once again for supporting the stream. Heavy Play in the chat, and those 5 smackaroos could be all yours. $5 store credit going to one lucky viewer. Now, my friends, we're going to take a break. We're going to take a quick break, get everything set up for our semi-finals. And just to remind you of the stakes, these semi-finals are essentially win-and-ins for the World Championship. The World Championship being held later on this year. So this is a big deal. You're not going to want to miss this Magic. A lot on the line. So stay with us. We'll be back in just a few moments with the semi-finals here at Dreamhack Denver.